Everyone knows roughly where they came from, at least most people. We know our parents, our grandparents, our history. We've seen pictures of our ancestral family and videos of our cousins on Facebook. But this isn't true for everyone. Some never get a chance to meet their grandparents, and others never even get a chance to meet their biological mother or father, as life can be complicated that way. I was adopted as a young child and never got to meet any of my biological family, but later I decided to change that. Hello, my name is Larry Martin, and today I'd like to take you through the journey of me finding my family. Hi, I'm Larry Martin. I grew up in Morris County, New Jersey, in a great family with three sisters, a mom and a dad. The little bit different part about my story is that I was adopted. My next younger sister was also adopted. And then my parents, as it often happens, two natural-born children came along to them. We were always treated very much the same, all four kids. My parents once in a while would say things like, we chose you. I don't think any of us ever felt any different than the other than there's always that one little question of wonder, like, where did I come from? We'd ask, like, what happened to our parents? And they'd say, well, we don't really know. So then we would wonder, well, did they die? Or, what happened? But it wasn't something we really spent a lot of time on or dwelt on too much. But you do feel a little bit different. Biologically, we knew we didn't belong, but love and family-wise, we definitely belong, the same as everyone else. Our adopted parents told us a little bit about our ethnic backgrounds. My adopted father was Spanish and Venezuelan. My adopted mother was Czechoslovakian. So I like to joke that when they went to the Catholic Charities orphanage that they were looking for a child that would sort of match that. So later on I found out that I was pretty close to that. I'm half Puerto Rican and half French Canadian. So that's a pretty good mix, pretty good match. It was just to make sort of a homogenous family out of it, and it wasn't talked about a lot. We really didn't play it up or down, and it wasn't really a nagging question for me. It did start to become a question for me, though, when I started to have my four children. So every time something medical would come up, including mostly the medical things for me were having a child, so they would ask a lot of questions about, family medical history. And so I would say I'm adopted, and they're like, well, why don't you know? And I'm like, well, just didn't share things like that back in the 60s and 70s. Now we're into the age of information where the internet's out there and information is a little bit more available, and they keep being asked these questions. I decided to kind of look into it. So I was part of a kind of a group on the internet that was looking for New Jersey. They were New Jersey adoptees looking for birth parents or birth family. And I got involved trying to help a few people with trying to find their biological family because I was here and maybe could get to some records that they couldn't get to. I did find that I was good at it. It's actually kind of what I do for a living is search the internet. Along the way, I actually found a woman and helped her find her birth mother and was there when she reunited with her birth mother. And we had been in the Catholic Charities nursery at the same time. We were there, overlapped about 5 months. So we dubbed each other's nicknames as crib mates and had this relationship, and I helped her. And then I kind of got hooked. I was like, well, this is kind of fun. It's something I can help people do, and I don't mind doing that. So then I sort of had to poke into my own. So it was at that time where you could write to the adoption agency, in my case, Catholic Charities in Newark, New Jersey, and ask them for what's called non-identifying information. So that would be like first names of your parents, your biological parents, their ages, their status in terms of relationship. And I get the information. I can remember calling my wife and just telling her how astounded I was by a couple of the facts. One was that my parents were married. And then at the very end of it was that my grandmother was taking care of my sister, who I didn't know I ever had. So having found, I had some interest in knowing my roots, but then finding out that I had a full sister really made me very, very curious. And that was something I couldn't leave alone. So I looked and looked on the internet and tried to find some people. And then I did get the idea to go down to Trenton and to ask for her birth certificate. So I got that, and I found out, without even knowing anything and being asked, I found out that my sister's name was changed from Yvette to Deborah. Then I was very quickly able to find her. I then tried with my private investigator friend to find my mother based on, I now had her birth date from my sister's birth certificate, and was able to kind of piece back to exactly who my mother might be and be able to have a positive ID on her because of birth date. So we looked, and we did find some women with the same name and around the same birthday, but not exactly the same. But I did think that I also found an address for her. I did finally go send a letter to my sister, and I put in there another letter to my birth mother for her to forward. And I didn't hear anything back from her, so I went down and knocked on her door. And so I met her, we looked at each other, I didn't tell her who I was, other than I was a friend of her mother's. And she kept looking at me funny, kind of knowingly, like we just look a lot alike. There's amazing similarities in between how we look. And I think she just sensed that, you know, I was somebody, but she didn't know who. I spoke to her and I said, you know, I had sent a letter to you, to your mom from me, and did you get that, and were you able to forward it? And she said, yes, I did send it to her, but my mother and I aren't talking. You know, I don't know who you are, but I did send it. So upon leaving there, I get a call from, on my cell phone, which is the number that I left on the letters, and I get a call from my biological mother. And she is absolutely screaming upon me picking up the line, and don't ever go see my daughter. You stay away from her, and then click, hang up. And then she'd call me back and she'd say, you know, what do you want, and who are you? And I said, well, you know, I gave her a little bit of information that she would absolutely know. And she said, that's very old news, and we really don't need to talk about that anymore. Never contact my daughter again. Click, hang up, then call back. Is anybody sick? No. Okay. Well, don't call my daughter anymore. Click, goodbye. Long story short, that was really the only conversation I really ever had with my biological mother. She obviously was not interested in speaking with me. She was concerned about her daughter, even though her daughter and my sister never weren't talking at the time. So whatever, their relationship was difficult. And I just let it be for actually a period of years and let it all go. I was, of course, disappointed because I really imagined that I was going to meet my biological mother, have a relationship with her, have a relationship with my full sister, who's, you know, my direct sibling. But it didn't work out that way. I was very sad. I was disappointed. Yet I still couldn't demand anything of them because, you know, this is all an intrusion. And, you know, when someone gives up a child for adoption, there's an agreement, or there was at that time, that neither one of them have a connection anymore. That's it. It's legally separated. They don't know each other. You know, it's not to be broken. That doesn't mean that I didn't keep thinking about it. I tried multiple times with letters with my biological mother. And then I thought to myself one day, well, maybe I should look for my father. And so then I started to look around for him. Now, men are really easy to find. I had his full name. I knew approximately when he was, I had his exact birth date from my birth certificate. And I was able to find a couple people, though, with the same name. So I did go down a very long kind of goose chase with a man who, number one, didn't speak English. Number two, was in a nursing home and had dementia. So we thought it might be him. And then hitting the dead end with the language barrier and the family not really knowing, I decided to go visit my sister again. She had moved. I knocked on her door. And this time I told her who I was. I said, look, you know, I'm your brother. I don't know what you know about all of this. And she said, well, I don't know if any of this is true. I'd have to confirm it with my mother, but I'm not speaking to her. And I said, okay. And I said, well, how about your father? She said, my father died in 1986. So then upon learning that, I realized my biological father was deceased, so I wasn't going to find him, and that I wasn't going to be speaking to my mother, more than likely, and my sister was pretty much full with her own life and wasn't going to be too involved with this anyway. So a couple of dreams sort of died that day. I didn't know at the time the rest of the story, but I did imagine that my father must have had some other family. It was very easy to look up his death record. I found out that yes, he had actually died, matched his birth date, and that he had died in the city of Passaic, New Jersey, which gave me kind of a focal point as to where, if he had any family, where they might be. One night, I remember it was at my sister's house. I had a great time with all my regular adopted family and sisters, and I just came home and I said, I'm going to find him tonight. So I just started sending out like 100 messages on Facebook one night, and then lo and behold, I got a nibble. So this person who had the right last name, and her name was Cookie, she said, started to ask me some questions on Facebook Messenger, and I started to answer them, and she was like interrogating me about what I knew, and then we must have gone through 12 or 14 questions, and I had some kind of an answer or said I didn't know on all of them, and then at the end she typed to me, well, if everything you've said is true, then you're the brother that we've been waiting to hear from for years. You found us.
So I was at an event,
Right.
and I got a call from my sister, Cookie, her at Elizabeth Cologne.
Right.
She called and she says, oh my God, I think I found our brother.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you know? She goes, I don't know, but he's calling, I don't know. I mean, he's texting.
He knows too much.
Yeah, he knows too much. And, what do you know about it? I mean, what questions should I ask him to make sure that's him and it's not?
Right.
I said, well, I think his name was Juan Cologne.
Right.
I said he's, I know it was in the North
And I knew
area,
that too.
and he was
Yeah.
adopted, and so she's like, okay, I'll call you back. I'll get back to you, and that's where it all began, actually, with her, because she was always on, was it Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook.
Was it Facebook?
Messenger. Yeah.
Yeah, it was on Facebook, so she was always on Facebook, so, and then she called you.
Right.
Right?
Right. We got on the phone that night. She got her sister, my other half sister, on the phone at the same time, and we had a great talk. And they had, they just had answers to all kinds of things that I had always wondered about, and they just tied up all the loose ends very quickly.
I don't know. I think we thought that maybe you would show up or somebody. I don't know. We didn't know the story behind.
Right.
We didn't know
Right.
if they were keeping it from you or just didn't want to know who we were or whatever. But nobody gave us information, so.
Right. And I would have had no way of knowing
Right.
where anybody was without really searching for a long time.
But meeting the experience was, we were like
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
away.
Right. We hit it right up.
And he came with you came with the birth certificate.
Yeah.
Martha was with you, right?
Yep,
Martha
yep,
was with
yep,
you. And at one point, it was funny because you and Albert, which is Papito, we call him Papito, which is your brother, you were talking, and it's like Forrest Gump. You both were like doing the same thing and walking. I said, oh my God, they are brothers.
They are brothers.
Yeah. But it was a great experience.
My experience being very welcomed into the family, kind of like the long lost brother, has been fantastic. I mean, it was, nice to find somebody out there who knew who I was, knew my roots, and was glad to welcome me into the family.
A lot of people. We do have a lot. And we have that famous picture. I
famous
love
picture.
that picture that we all sat on the steps, right?
Yeah.
All the way down.
Yeah. We had a lot of people.
Yes, a lot of people.
Now it's been over 10 years, my family has now grown again exponentially. Unfortunately, we lost Cookie to illness this year, and she did pass away rather young. Extremely difficult for the family.
I think if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Yeah.
And we're unfortunate for us. We lost her this year in May.
Very sad.
She passed away, and she's the baby of our family, from the girls.
Yeah.
But it was because of her that we were here today, and we were able to have this relationship and Larry was able to find us, then I'm so happy that we found each other.
Yeah.
I'm 100%.
So the really great blessing for me has been family. I've had family beyond family at this point, and it's just been a wonderful experience for me. I love family. It's been very abundant, and it really is the greatest pleasure of my life. So I wish you well, and if you want to search, go search.
Bye.